It wasn't the greatest summer, but you know what? Life goes on. And so, as promised, now there's a lot of things that I'm going to mention. And like I said, even made a little list for myself. And the reason why I made a list is because I can't remember everything that happened over the course of the last few months. A lot of summer stuff, if you will. We still do emails from females. Got a bunch of emails in over the summer, beatmachine973 at outlook.com. And I might read some of those. I don't want to waste too much time. So we are lucky enough and blessed enough that we're going to have Jen, and she is here. She's actually in the studio. You can't see her yet, but you will. And you'll be able to ask her some questions. You can type in the chat, whether it's coming in through Kick, Twitch, or YouTube, or the number, our phone line, will be open if you want to ask any legitimate, real questions in a little bit. After she gets going a little bit, then I'm sure there's going to be questions that you're going to want answered. And I've known her for a while, and she's definitely not known for holding back. So that should be interesting. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that, for those that are watching and those that are listening. We are glad that you are here. Anyway, and I got to tell you, so we're here live in New Jersey. And as far as I'm concerned, growing up here, I spent a lot of time in Florida as well. But growing up here, there's three reasons only why people come to New Jersey. Number one, you live here. Number two, you have family here. Or number three, you're under subpoena. Other than those three things, there is absolutely no reason that people come to New Jersey. And that's fine, because the traffic's already really bad and we don't want you here. So I'm just kidding, but not really. So anyway, that's just a little something, little tidbit that I figured I would mention on there. But there is a lot of things that happened over the summer. And the reason why, which is the emails that I get the most, is why are we pivoting to more serious subjects, more serious subject matter? Well, we started out and it was sports, movies, music, a little bit of everything. But I got to tell you, we have a huge demographic of the age of 22 to 29, I should say, which I'm thinking, what do I have in common with people that are that age? I haven't been that age in a bit. So I actually polled people. I actually did online polls, but not only that, I actually went out and I was talking to different people, millennials, people a little bit older than that, around that age. And I'm thinking, hey, what is it that you would rather have, since we have that kind of captive audience? We have a lot of older people too, but that's a huge demographic. It's like 48%, almost half of the people that listen and watch. So I asked them, just flat out, you want more movies? You want more music stuff? You want more trivia? We spin the wheel. We had a lot of fun doing that over the course of the last, several months since we first aired it back in March. And I was surprised by the answer. I thought it was going to be, we want to hear more about this, or, do more sports stuff or more NFL stuff. Nope. And I actually was surprised. And that doesn't happen often, but I was. And the subjects that they wanted more, this is what I would get. We want more guidance. It didn't come out that way. I'll give you an example. So I'm talking to this one young lady, and she said, then a group of her friends came over. So I was asking all of them, why not? Why not go right to the source and find out what is it? These people had just graduated high school, freshmen in college. Some people go to trade school. Some people are, fine arts, or whatever the case may be. So it was a grouping of all different types. It wasn't just one type of, one group of it wasn't just cheerleaders, although that would definitely get me arrested. But anyway, I said, what is it that you want? Well, we went to school, high school, and we're out now. And, a lot of us are going on to college. We're going on to school, or we're going to trade school, like I mentioned, or we're going to be working at this place or working at that place. Can't find a job in, what we went to school for, what we have our degree in, for those that already graduated. And for the other ones, we just, look, we had structure, we had direction, we had certain formatting of things. And now we don't have that. And I'm like, well, yeah, welcome to the real world. This is, this is the way the real world, works, And I remember back then going to school, going to college, and not being able to get a job in your field, so you're getting something else maybe at the time, something that's sustainable until you're able to do that. Well, that was then. And I noticed now it's even more convoluted than it was back then. And the reason I say this is because if you're not able to at least, they don't know, they want some direction. They're talking to their professors or their guidance counselors or whatever. But I guess the life experience that I have, I'm not America's dad here. I'm a parent. I'm a son. I know life. I've been around a while. And if I'm able to help or give some guidance or give my opinion on stuff, not here, do this, or I could say, well, this is what I did, or this is what I would do. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with telling younger people that. And I certainly don't want to give them bad advice or the wrong advice. It's not cookie cutter. It's different for everybody. So, but that's what they wanted. So, like I put on our Twitter, we decided to pivot to more serious stuff. Now, there's going to be sarcasm. There's going to be comedy. There's going to be funny stuff. There's going to be some crazy, stuff, because it's still the meme machine. This isn't a nice machine by all means. That. We're not going to, sit around and fluff pillows with, stuffed animals and shit like that. But perhaps people, and we're going to have more guests and everything, we're going to pivot because society and culture is the niche, and we're trying to do this and we're trying to do that. And it seems like you could get that anywhere. There's 1,000,000,001 sports podcast, if you want to call it that, or even broadcast or going on radio like we do right here, right now, and we're live. It's not just that. It's so many of them, and there's thousands upon thousands of them. So how do you stand apart from that? Now, I know that I'm not, this isn't an original thought or anything, but my God, you can't tell me that you want to be different. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that we wanted to do society and culture and just life in general. That is the niche, because there's no bigger platform than life, right? And if you could get something out of the show, something that I said, maybe a guest said, or something that you might have heard, or on the show when you're listening on Spotify or whatever the case may be, if that actually helped you or jostled something around in your brain and said, well, you know what, maybe not that, but that gives me an idea, and blah, 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 whatever it is. I can feel that we gave you some probative value, that we gave you something that you didn't see going on every channel, on every social media platform or whatever. It's something a little bit different. Real people, real life, and cutting through the bullshit. That's right, I said it. Because the last thing you need is another person blowing sunshine up your rear. You know what I mean? You want to be able to hear it, just whether the news be good or bad, just from the hip. Here you go. This is what it is. You know what I mean? Or this is what happened to me or her, or whatever the case may be. So that's what we decided to do. And you know what? I'm happy to do it, because if I helped one person, or just one, or a few people, or a group of people, that makes me feel good to do. And you have to do stuff that's good for the soul. Why not? So, and I get an email that says, well, are you doing that for the ratings? Yeah, but it's still the truth. I make no bones about it, and I have nothing to hide, of course. And I don't mean that so that, we could roll in the dough type of thing. It's because more and more people will be, word of mouth is the best marketing in the world. So, you know what? I heard this guy on the Meme Machine radio show and everything, and you got to check this out, or go on YouTube and check out his channel. And it's interesting what this person said, or his take on something. Well, that's a good thing. So if that means that the ratings are better because more people are able to goof around and help, and then we have some fun, everything, then what's wrong with that? Or do you just want to talk about football all day long? Maybe some people do, and that's great. I love football too. But I'm not really providing much of a service, and I kind of want to do that. It's incumbent upon me? No, but I've decided to run with it. So anyway, that answers probably about 10 to 12 emails that I got that pretty much just blanketed all of them. We'll still spin the wheel. And look, we're not perfect, but we're honest. And sometimes that's good enough, if you know what I mean. Emails from females are coming up. Yes, Jen is here. Yes, she's going to tell you about everything it is. A day in the life of a hospice nurse. You can only imagine. You think your job is tough? Wait until you hear what she has to say. And it's not all bad. I can't even say it is bad. It's going to be the truth. And you take away from it what you will. It might shock you, some stuff. Maybe some stuff is right along the same lines as what you're used to, or what you've Googled, let's say, or whatever the case may be. But maybe there's some stuff that you don't know. Well, you have a real live person. This isn't AI. This is real people doing real things, talking about real life back to you. It's not a gift. It's not a service. It's just a concept, and that's what we're going with right now. And I want to mention one more thing, by the way, and those that are listening and watching and everything. And I do appreciate that we got a lot of subscribers on our YouTube channel over the summer, and some people it's starting to trickle in on our Spotify and everything. If you can't catch us live, we don't have an actual schedule yet. This was supposed to be 2 weeks ago, then something came up, and then there was some family obligations last Sunday, so we had to back it up another week. So I apologize for that, and I try to keep you abreast of whatever is going on, the situation. I know it's of paramount importance that we have a regular schedule. Okay, it's going to be every Sunday at 4 o'clock to 6 or whatever the case may be. Can't do that right now. But what I will promise you is that when an episode is going to drop, whether it's available because we already were live and now it's available the next day on iHeart or something like that, or when we're going to be live at Mean Machine 973. By the way, once again, every season, every episode, I have to go over this. The 973 is our area code. We're in North Jersey. Okay, we're in Soprano Land. I've told you that. So if you don't have Twitter, that's the best way because I update that constantly. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Threads. I don't know if anybody's on there, but we're on there too. Twitch, Kick, all those type of things. But as far as updates are concerned, Twitter is the way to go. And it'll let you know what we're doing. Oh, by the way, this is coming up or that's coming up or an episode's going to drop or we're going to have this guest or whatever. That's the best way to do it. And if you want to be a guest on a future show, memachine973@outlook.com. Drop us a line and let us know. Hey, this is what I bring to the table. This is what I'd like to talk about. This is what I have a background in. Because remember, it's society and culture that engulfs and encapsulates a huge area. So that means a lot of topics and a lot more people can be, it's inclusive of more people if we do it that way. If I was doing something just on football, well, if someone played tennis or maybe they're a lawyer or something like that, that wouldn't be the show for them. Well, this is a little bit different now. So that's kind of how I try to look at it that way. And I hope you do too. And there's only one more thing before we go to break real quick. And that is, my God, some of these people out there have to knock this off. I mean, we don't talk about politics and religion because those are controversial subjects, and people don't want to. It's not a good idea that we do stuff like that. So we don't. We toe the line, but we do not talk about it. Now I know there's a lot of people that maybe they did. Well, it's not going to be on the show. I'm sorry. There's just too much controversy with all that stuff, and it's a politically charged climate right now, like it always seems like it is. With everything else that's going on. Can we touch on those different things? Of course we can. We'll if you have a beef with something or someone, yeah, we could do that. I'm not saying that we have to pretend our eyes closed and everything is just beautiful, it's sunshine and rainbows, because then you're full of it. But my God, when we're talking about a certain thing or I post something on one of the social media platforms or whatever the case may be, it seems like, not always and not everybody, they have to mention something political. They won't stop. It's so annoying. Knock it off. If I put something that's funny on there or whatever, and someone will put, oh, that's just like Biden, or that's just like Trump, or that's a MAGA supporter, oh, that's a liberal, but stop it. It's not necessary. If that's what's on your mind, go to a room or go on a station or whatever the case may be to where they do that stuff and they like to rile it up and stir the pot and everything. I like to stir the pot with both hands, baby. That's not the point. Point is, not getting sucked into that. I'm just not doing it because then it's impossible to remain impartial. You have to try to remain neutral, like Switzerland. How'd that work out? But I hate that. I really, I'm going to say I dislike it greatly, but I hate it. When you're trying to do something funny or just a funny meme and it has absolutely nothing to do with politics, some knucklehead is going to say, oh, enough. Because you're just embarrassing yourselves. If that stuff is so on your mind that much, find the right venue, find the right, platform for it. Don't clog up my page with that stuff because it's not welcome. And I don't like it. And I know if that's what's on your mind, I understand. Believe me, a lot of this stuff bothers me too. I have to remain impartial. I have people that are liberals and blue that follow me on Twitter. I have people that are MAGA and red that follow me on Twitter. And the reason that is because I'm not taking any sides because there's no side to take. It's not a political show. So, not trying to be adamant about it, but I am. But I wanted to make that crystal clear that you guys got to chill out with that stuff. You know what I mean? Like I said, I know there's a lot going on in this one and pronouns and this and then what do we do here? And can you yeah, it's a lot of crazy shit going on out there. I get it. Trust me, I'm not a babe in the woods. I'm not ignorant to the fact of what's going on. But there's enough other thing. There really is. There's enough stuff to talk about that we don't have to constantly do it. And I understand that a lot of people that do that are the same people that think that Pizza Hut and Domino's is good pizza. So I kind of give them like a little bit of, there's a stupidity factor in there that I understand. Or Olive Garden, that's really good Italian food. My God, it's a good thing I'm not, you're not here because I would choke you with a breadstick. But all I'm saying is that that's just the way I feel about it. We got a lot of that over the summer, especially in July. My God, one little thing and people went berserk. It was something about a short that I did about why do people wear masks in a car when they're by themselves. You would think that I took a dump on the United States or something like that. The way some of these people responded, oh my God, my finger hurt from friggin' having to delete and block and mute people. It was unbelievable. Not everybody. Most of the people understood that it's a meme and it's not to be taken seriously. And then other people are like so far out there, like Pluto. You know what I mean? They get triggered by the slightest thing. And you know what? I get that. But please, let's just keep politics and religion out of this. There's enough things to make fun of, to be sarcastic about, you know what I mean, in society and culture in general. We don't need that too. You know what I mean? There's different venues for that. Go to one. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick break. And then when we get back, and by the way, I'm not yelling at you guys. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings. But if you saw it from my side, you'd be like, geez, I didn't realize it was that bad. Yeah, it does. It gets that bad. And there's a lot of stuff that happened over the summer. But to reiterate, going over things that people can get some value out of, to get maybe to help them. Like I said, I would feel really good to do it. And if it helps them, I'm all for it. And that includes the guests that we might or might not have on, these type of things, mostly remote, but we have in studio one today. And like I said earlier, we're lucky, very lucky to have her. So we are going to take a break. We will be back. And thanks for listening to my banter. Yeah, and we got dad jokes too. My midget girlfriend, she's still around. You know what I mean? We're going to get to the bottom of that, if you know what I mean. By the way, she started a web store, my midget girlfriend. It's really, really cool. I told her I do as many plugs for her as I possibly could on here because I support small business. She didn't like that one, And there was another guy. He's like, "Aren't you afraid that all those midget jokes and everything that the whole mess of them, they're all going to be mad at you?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess. I don't sweat the small stuff. Get it? Yeah, I know they're dad jokes, but somebody's got to do it. They're so bad, they're good." Anyway, that's part of being able to do the things that we do, baby. That's how we roll with a lot of things. But anyway, we will be back. We are live. WGAT, New Jersey 88. Anyway, sometimes it happens with the satellite feed, so I apologize about that. Anyway, we'll be back. We'll have a little bit of music. That's what I call it. It's not regular music. It's music. And just chill a little bit. And we will be back in a few. I'm glad that people are listening and watching. And like I said, when we get back, Jen is here, hospice nurse. And we are going to take calls. We are going to be able to have people type in the chat and all sorts of good stuff. So hopefully you'll stick around for that. I'm excited about it. So we'll get you a little music going over here. Kind of wait for the jingles and everything to start coming in. So that'll be cool. All right. And we will go to commercial. We'll be back. And my mic. Yep. See the lights go? All of a sudden it went at the last.
Yeah, I heard you fine.
Stay. You didn't hear it went. And then I had to fight the mic gain. The mic gain kept fucking with me. It kept going. Zoom, zoom, zoom. I don't know why it does that. I still don't know why it does that. All right, so we're on break right now. So you're gonna go. We're gonna have you next. There was 34 people. That was the highest at the highest point. Yeah, watching. I don't know about listening. See, now we're on break. So we're on commercial right now. Right now, there's only 3 people in the room right now. There's like a little 3 there. It'll come up. See, you can't go by that. By the way, it is super, super dark in here. I don't know why. They can't even see me at all.
That's all right.
That's what I say.
I could see you on.
All right, we are back, and welcome back. We are in season 2, episode 1, the Mean Machine Radio Show, live on WGAT New Jersey 88. And I am your host here, the Mean Machine, and we are on air. So that's nice. So those that are coming in through YouTube, or we have people coming in on Twitch or Kick. Now, keep in mind, if you're not able to catch us live, which sounds ridiculous because obviously if you're not here, you don't know what I'm saying. But for those that might know this for later on, for just make a mental note, we are available on Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. And it's usually within 48 hours of the live broadcast. So that being today, so by the latest Tuesday morning, you'll be able to go on there. You just look up the Mean Machine Radio Show, and you will find us, all the different episodes and things like that. So without further ado, I know why you people are listening and watching. We have Jen here. Jen is a registered nurse here in the state of New Jersey, and we're going to get a little background and everything. You'll be able to meet her now, and she's actually here, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, as promised, we're trying to deliver here for you. And like I said, she's an RN. She's been a hospice nurse. I've known her for quite some time, and she was gracious enough to come on the show here and spend some time with us on this Sunday. So, like I said, without further ado, we'll bring in Jen right now. And good afternoon, young lady.
Hello. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So, as I was telling people that you are a registered nurse here in the state of New Jersey, and the fact that you are a hospice nurse and you have been for quite some time, why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers, give us a little bit of background, like whatever you want to tell them, where you went to school, how you came about that you wanted to become a nurse. Let it fly. The floor is yours, Jen.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me.
Of course.
As you said, I'm a registered nurse in the state of New Jersey, almost 30 years. I specifically am a hospice nurse, and I've been doing that for most of my career, whether working side by side with hospice companies or working in a hospice company specifically, which I've been doing for the past 15. So that is currently what I'm doing and what we're going to talk a little bit about today. And clear up some of the misconceptions, talk about what hospice is and is not,
Okay.
and how people get it, who can have it.
Yeah, I mean, and exactly. I mean, just from my own personal standpoint, I mean, I know that it's a touchy subject, and obviously that hospice, the first thing people think of, obviously, is the big C word. We already know, cancer. So,
Right.
but
It's a
it's not.
scary word. Hospice in itself sounds scary, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I wish it was called something else.
It's synonymous with, I wouldn't say negativity. It's with, it's more of a hope thing. And I believe that it's one of the most important, if not the most important job that there can be. And I mean, people could Google it and everything, but I mean, a day in your life, and we'll get to that in a second, a day in your life is probably not going to be cookie cutter. It's different. There's different people, different places that you go, different background, different ailments.
Yes.
I always was under the assumption that it's not just people that have cancer, or that, I mean,
Not at all.
people that are terminal. I mean,
Right.
That's all right. I mean, I didn't even know that until you
And
told me.
most people don't until people need the hospice care with themselves or within their family. Prior to that, they know nothing about it. And that is the issue, because it's one of the most underused benefits in the healthcare system. People don't even know that they're entitled to it.
Really? How would they know that? Like, is that something where the insurance is not going to volunteer it? It just, you have to kind of figure it out on your own. Is that how it works?
Usually not until someone is terminal does a doctor say to a family, well, maybe it's time to talk about hospice care. We've, done everything we can do. Or sometimes often it's geriatric cases, elderly,
Right.
that are just coming to the twilight of their life. And someone can be on hospice care for quite some time. It's not just the last moments. It's not the last 30 days. I've had patients on hospice care for up to 3 years sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah, for all
I-
different reasons.
I didn't even realize that it would. I thought it was just at the very end, but I guess that could be something. I mean, that's another thing. Like, how do you know? How would like your regular person, know? Okay, so let's just say, God forbid, it's my grandmother, and and we know that she's sick or whatever. Is it that you have to wait for a certain indicator? Like, is that something that the
That's
family does? Or
that's part of it, sure.
Okay.
Usually the conversation is started by the doctor. Usually someone has, been hospitalized. Let's say if it's a cancer, which is the obvious reason, a terminal cancer for hospice care, when all avenues have been exhausted and there's no more to do and it's time to talk about comfort. Sometimes people choose not to receive cancer care, to try to receive any curative care. Maybe because they're just in advanced age, or they just know that they want a quality of life at their end of life and not to spend it being treated for a cancer. There are very specific markers that have to be met.
When you say markers, meaning
Whatever the diagnosis is that somebody's going to come on to hospice care for,
Okay.
whether it be someone who has had a stroke or end-stage kidney disease, cancer, Alzheimer's. There are many, many patients who come on for Alzheimer's disease at the end.
It's pretty sad. I know. I've read a lot of stuff about that, and it's just not. I didn't really think about that when I was young, but
Right.
as
As
the more
we
that
age,
you're, yeah, I
these
mean,
things
I
come
mean,
to
not
light.
even, no, I don't mean for myself, well, not yet, thank God, but it's
Well, no, but we're dealing now with, we're of an age, we're dealing with parents
right,
who are of a certain age.
right, and that can't be easy to do, to have to make that determination. And I'm guessing that it's something it's cumulative. It's not just a family. I mean, the actual patient should, or I don't know if they actually have a say in it. I'm guessing that
Yes.
they should.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Which brings me to one of the other things we're going to talk about is making your wishes known, putting them in writing, having a living will.
Okay.
It's important to put all that in writing at a much younger age than you think. Because if you're unable to speak for yourself because of an illness or an accident, and your loved ones have to make this decision on your behalf, then if it's not in legal writing, then it's going to be their decision. And they may or may not go with what you want.
Okay. Well, it's well, let's ask, before we get too far down the road there, what made you want to, if you could pinpoint the exact thing or different things or that were cumulative
Sure.
or not, why did you want to? I mean, that's not for everybody, obviously. I mean,
No, it's not.
nursing
And
is-
I get that all the time. All the time people say, how do you do it? How do you
I
deal
mean,
with it?
did you start as a hospice nurse, or were you a regular RN and then kind of?
Nope, I was just a registered nurse. I worked in a hospital right out of nursing school. I worked in nursing homes along the way. As a registered nurse, most of the time, death is part of the job. And I worked alongside hospice companies that would come into facilities that I worked in. Because wherever a patient is where the hospice will go. Hospice is not just a place, a company has an inpatient unit. Most of the time it's home care, whether it be in a nursing home or in their own private home or an assisted living facility. So over time, I just came to witness several end-of-life situations, and especially with hospice being involved in these particular situations. And it's a calling. It became a calling for me. And most hospice nurses will say those exact words. It's a calling to be in that specific area of nursing.
a calling, really, like
Well,
a priest would get a calling,
yeah,
really.
it's a calling. And we've all tried. And I'm sure if there's any hospice nurses listening or any nurses in general, most people in the medical field, they find their niche wherever that may be along the way. And hospice nurses, especially once you're called to it, no matter what you do to try to break free of it, you keep coming back to it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was more of a calling thing. I mean, man, it's a good thing. The only time I ever heard of that is, like when a priest or a
The
nun
church.
becomes.
Right. And, spirituality really goes hand in hand with the job. It's not just nurses in hospice companies that take care of patients. We have, of course, nursing aides, but we also have social workers and chaplains who visit with patients. So there's a whole interdisciplinary team of people under the heading of a physician, and we all care for the patient and their family. It's not just about the patient. We go through the whole process together. Family members included. Sometimes they need us much more than the patient does.
Right, because the patient sometimes has already accepted it and the family cannot. So you're
Correct.
pretty much having to cover that whole area. It's not just that one-on-one. It's the reassurance with the family. And I mean, is the family around, like sitting around and everything, like when you're with the patient, or are you there?
A lot of the time, yes. In a private home situation. Sometimes in the nursing home, no, because they come during certain, visiting hours. So I may not always run into families, but I always communicate with them on the telephone. So we're always in constant communication. Every time I make a visit to a patient, I make a phone call if the family's not right there with me.
You're allowed to be alone with them, obviously.
Oh, of course. And hospice, I think a lot of what people need to know, or I would want people to know, because it is such an underused benefit in the healthcare system, is what it actually means to have hospice care. And one of the first things I often hear from families is, oh, I don't think hospice is for us because, you're just going to give my mother morphine until you kill her. And you're going to take everything away.
Interesting. And it's got to be a lot of pressure, I would think.
There's a lot of barriers, a lot of hurdles to jump over to help.
Well, yeah, with the pressure of not only that, having that on your, in your daily thought, as you're there, but you have the family right there, like not so much looking over your shoulder, but I mean,
they're looking.
You got to be careful.
Just like your in any healthcare setting. If your loved one is in a healthcare setting, of course, the people who love you and care about you are looking over the shoulders of the healthcare professionals to make sure everything's okay. Well, so that's one of the biggies, what I said about the morphine, that in every hospice situation, is there morphine? Yes. Especially
you administer that, right? I mean,
we administer it, and the family can administer it, and the home health aides can administer it if it's pre-measured. But the point about it is that morphine is used only in the very, very, very end of life. Hospice does not equal morphine. It's a huge misconception.
So it's not necessarily hand in hand. That's something that and that's for, I guess, comfort.
It's for comfort. It's, everyone knows what's morphine. It's a painkiller. It's also used for respiratory distress to help calm breathing. So we make it available from the first time we meet a patient and they become admitted onto, hospice services. But it doesn't mean we ever use it or until the very end of life. The whole goal of hospice is to live until we die.
So it's to give them a little bit more comfort, to remind them, I would think, that they're a human being, that they're
dignity, living with dignity, simple dignity that we all should have.
Well, I've always been told, people are like, oh, yeah, this person passed away with dignity, or they died of, with dignity and everything. The way I see it, my personal opinion, this is just me, you got to live with dignity. You know
Right.
what I mean? We all are going to go one day.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it has nothing to do with it. I would rather live with it.
Right.
And I know that you're there to not only administer. I mean, some people might think that. I'm not sure what people think. I mean, if they want to type in the chat, they can if they have questions. By the way, not to interrupt you, Jen, I'm just letting people know that the number here is 862-295-2111. If you want to call in, if you have a legitimate question for Jen. But I just wanted to make sure that, I mean, because like I said, there was a lot of misconceptions out there
Right.
just from me alone.
Right.
I've had firsthand experience with loved ones, and obviously it's unfortunate, but cancer and stuff like that. I've just ravaged my family, and it never gets any easier. And I can only know that it hurts a lot because those are the people that are not around anymore.
Right.
But in your instance, this isn't your family members. These are people that are either paying for it or through insurance or whatever the case may
Right.
be.
It's free for most people through, if they're on Medicare, Medicaid, it's a free benefit. It's part of their Medicare and Medicaid benefit.
Okay, so money aside, then it's. How can I put this in a I would say a very diplomatic way, but to be able on day in and day out, like if something happened, it was a family member or several family members, for let's say, for hypothetically for me, and then that person unfortunately passes,
Right.
and that ends the hospice being at our house or their house or wherever they were providing that care. However, for you and for other hospice nurses, like it's an everyday thing that's got to wear on you.
That's
because
what
you're
most
seeing
people say. Right.
I mean,
We
we're only going
view
through
it
it
in a
with our people.
different way. And I'm not going to say it isn't hard sometimes, especially with patients, maybe that have been on service a lot longer.
Right.
Because the sicker they become, the more often we see them, not just once a week. The nurse starts going every day of the week at some point. And sure, it can be really hard. And we cry right along with the families. That is part of it.
That's what I mean. That day in and day out, a different group of people, a different person, someone that you kind of got close to, whether you were with them 3 years, 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever the case may be, and now they're gone, and you're on to the next, and then this terrible, whatever this person is terminal from or whatever, and you got to go through it again
Right.
and again and again. That's got to weigh on you. That
It does,
you're getting
but
it in the
not
last
as
part of your
much
life.
as you would think, and not because we're cold-hearted.
No,
And not because we're even stoic, but because we view it in a different way. Have you ever been invited, besides your own children, to be in the delivery room with someone who's having a baby?
Right.
That's the biggest honor, right?
Sure.
Huge honor to be asked to be there for the birth of your child. We view being invited to be a hospice nurse for someone, that's being invited to the most intimate moment in their life.
Right.
Their birth,
I would agree with that.
the whole life ahead of them, but their death, where they're going to wherever they're going. That's between them and their maker, whoever their maker is. That's so individual. So we really view it as a privilege to do the work we do, all of us. And I've met other co-workers along the way that, and some nurses I'm meeting for the first time. We all say the same thing without ever knowing one another. We all feel the same way. It's a niche and it is a calling. We are where we belong.
And you accept that. I mean, that's part of
it is the nursing I
because you got to keep going through it.
forever.
I mean, over and then over again. And then like your day might start out great. And then the person that you were,
Right.
having a relationship with as far as, nursing and patient.
Right.
And they're gone.
One day they were speaking to me. The next day they may be comatose and can't speak to me or
I
their own
know.
family anymore.
How do you deal with that? I mean, that's got to affect you. Now, I'm not to
It
repeat
affects
but
me in that
a different way you said.
a different way, in that I know I've done everything on this earth to make them feel comfortable, not feel pain, and to take a burden off their family's shoulders. That the family knows that their time with their loved one is quality time. We do the heavy work.
Right.
Let us figure out what to give them, how to give it, what will comfort them. And as long as the family is in complete agreement, because they're equally as important. We don't do anything that a family or responsible party says, no, you may not do that. Everyone has to be in agreement, or it simply won't work.
Okay. Well, that's one part of it. Now, like I said, some people Google stuff or, other family members, or they've been through it before, or whatever the case may be. However, I know that a day in your life, you don't even have to speak hypothetically. You could actually, without divulging any, or breaking any confidences or anything like that. We're not going to say what company you work for. We're not going to say, this or that. But in the whole mainstream of things, this is not, name one person out of 100 people that hasn't heard of hospice. You're not going to get anyone, I don't think, whether they've been through it or not. They are aware, they're cognizant that it exists.
But they don't usually know what it means. And even medical doctors, some medical doctors are some of our biggest naysayers.
Well, insurance covers hospice, correct? Everybody's insured, like they take everything. I'm guessing there's never a time where it's
almost all cases. In almost all cases, some insurances there might be copay. Private insurances, Medicare and Medicaid, it's 100% covered benefit.
Okay.
So
do they get to choose? I've always wanted to know: do they get to choose who they want, like male, female, age, gender, whatever the case may be? Or
as far as their caregiver, you mean nurse?
Yeah, like if a family says, okay, that we want to have a hospice nurse, we believe that it's time, or this particular person, do they get to choose, or they just put the call in, and then who makes the determination of who goes where? Is it all about geography?
Well, it has to do with geography, and it has to do with what company you go with. That's another misconception. People think of
companies, right?
Okay. People think of the word hospice, and they think hospice is the name of a company. Hospice is a type of care, a philosophy of care. There are thousands of hospice companies across the nation, thousands of them.
Thousands.
Yes. And New Jersey, hundreds of them.
I didn't even believe that. That's
so, it's up to the individual or their family, if their family must speak for them, what company they want to use.
Okay.
Some are affiliated with hospitals.
So the insurance company doesn't say, okay, it's got to be this particular one. They work with this insurance. It doesn't work that way, or it does work that way?
In some cases, yes. Insurance companies will say, no, we are linked to this one, this one, this one. But in the end, it really is personal choice. It really is. So, and as far as picking male to female, we do try to accommodate that. All hospice companies do. But we have more males than ever working as nurses in all fields.
I never really realized that. I know that I remember seeing a lot more, airline attendants went from all female to like a lot more male, but I'm just being funny.
And vice versa. We're all working in different fields. There's more female construction workers.
It's just, and that's fine. I have no issue with it, but it's not something that's on my mind. But so if I have government, I have a loved one that says, okay, well, and it's getting closer to this, or we don't know how much time, but we want their quality of life. I stress that the quality of life to be as comfortable and easy. And I truly believe it's not just for the patient, it's for the family too.
Right.
They're
very
going
much
through
so. Very much so.
Like when they say we're having a baby. Well, a lot of times like that, it's we have cancer, or we have this Alzheimer's, or whatever it is. And it's sad. I'm not making fun. I'm not even being sarcastic. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
So it's like everybody's going to carry that burden, that hurt. And that's not something that I've never heard of before, but that's a lot. You're trying to make the patient and the family feel better about impending. To me, it's like impending doom. I know that's gloomy to say that.
It is, but along the way, we kind of break through an imaginary wall where we get to the good place, where it becomes now a beautiful thing that's going to happen. That, the worry of, is my loved one going to suffer? The what ifs, that people have in their mind. Of course, there's the what ifs, right? Are they going to be in pain? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? A lot
The
of
inevitable.
questions,
You're trying to look.
right?
The plane's still going to crash. You're just trying to make it a softer landing. I mean, that's a stupid analogy, but you get my
No,
point.
it's an analogy that kind of, yeah, the plane could crash or it could be a miracle on the Hudson. And that's what we strive to do.
Oh
A
yeah, I mean,
miracle on the
I didn't even
Hudson.
think of that.
Yeah.
That's possible. The person might go into remission. I mean,
That
in the lucky
happens.
cases, I would. I mean,
Well,
you hit it on that, right?
here's part of the benefit that you were saying before. How do you get the hospice benefit? If a
Right.
person meets, there's a whole list of criteria for different diagnoses, all different diagnoses. There's not just one.
Okay.
Is that a doctor? Well, two doctors have to sign off on it.
Two doctors.
Two
What-
doctors
they
must
have to
sign
look
off
at-
on it.
concur on what's going to happen.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So it's like a first and second opinion, and it's usually their personal medical doctor and the medical director of whatever hospice company. So two doctors concur. Yes, they meet XYZ criteria for this particular diagnosis. And that reasonably, and that's the key word, and it's in writing, reasonably, that someone is in their 6 month or less to live time frame.
6 months. Like, who makes that determination? The doctor? Does hospice do it?
It's something's been set forth by Medicare over the years and many scholarly medical people.
Right. Okay.
So, but
Solid.
it doesn't mean at 6 months some magic button goes off and we say, "Oh, they're still going. They're okay. They're
Just
still
so you
living."
can get it for as long as you want. Then, in other words,
Basically. And then so after they reevaluate, we reevaluate along the way. So after 90 days, when somebody first comes on a service, we reevaluate. They are still heading on this trajectory, right?
it's every 3 months. You said every
Yeah.
90 days.
And then another 90 days,
Okay.
they're heading down that same trajectory. And then after that, it becomes every 60 days. And we just go on like that. As long as they're meeting all the criteria, and criteria, I mean things like weight loss, signs of decline. Yes, they're still declining. There's no timestamp on any of us, right? We are all individuals and we go through.
It's an educated guess if someone says, "Well, you have 6 months to live," so that could mean 5. It could mean 9.
It could mean 2 years. We just don't know sometimes.
Right.
We don't have a crystal ball. Yes, we can tell a lot by the knowledge of a nurse and an MD and what we see. But can we crystal ball it? No. Sometimes a patient will make a big fat liar out of all of us.
And that's what you want. You want to be wrong about that.
Of course. Other times, we think, oh, this person barely meets the qualifications, but they meet them. And then they pass away very, very quickly.
Well, what criteria? You said there's different
Criteria. So weight loss is a big one.
to be able to say, "Hey, we want hospice,"
Right.
and now it's up to the. I
Right.
mean, for me,
If it's a diagnosis that's not an obvious, like
okay,
end stage AIDS or cancer, a terminal cancer. That's that's the criteria. That's terminal, right? Can't be treated anymore. But in other disease processes, it's more vague. Is it terminal? What stage are they in? And then we use these set of criteria to kind of determine that. So an Alzheimer's patient, for instance, Alzheimer's can go on for many, many years.
right.
Are they terminal at this point? We look at the criteria. Are they losing weight? How much weight and how fast?
Well, there's a question that came in, and I actually had the same one.
Yeah.
Honestly, and it said, "What is the difference, if there is one,
Mhm.
between home and whether this is private insurance or not? That's not even what I'm talking about. What's the difference between an RN that would be home care, let's say, like visiting angels, stuff like that,
Right.
and an actual bona fide hospice nurse? Like, can any nurse do hospice, or do you have a specific set of skills?"
Well,
that you use
that's a
as
good
a
question. Any nurse can be a hospice nurse as long as you are a registered nurse
Right.
Also, LPNs can work in hospice companies. There are certain things they can do and can't do, like in any part of being an LPN, the license restricts certain things.
Right.
But
Like they can't administer drugs, stuff like that. LPN.
no, they can. They can.
Okay.
Yep. It has to do with more about like Medicare and insurance guidelines, what types of visits,
Oh,
and the charting that goes along with it. We'll get into that. That's the other big part of the job. It's not all about the bedside nursing and the care. It's a lot about paperwork. Well,
so a home health aide is not the same thing.
no. Home
Yeah.
health aide is someone who helps bathe the patient and come
You
in
don't
and
do that, right?
feed the patient. Well, I do all those things too if I need to, but that is not my normal function as a hospice nurse. No.
Okay.
But when it needs to be done and I'm the one there, yes, I do it all the time. The home health aide, with the hospice benefit at home, another misconception is they're thinking we're going to be there all the time. A lot of the onus of the care, most of the onus of the care is on the family or the nursing home if they reside in a nursing home, let's say. We're a supportive service and we do a lot of teaching with the families and the staff of nursing facilities so they know how to care for this patient. And we're not there around the clock. We come every single day if we need to, and you get a nurse and a social worker, a chaplain,
Right.
a
It's a
nurse
set
aide.
schedule, though, right? Like,
right. We try
okay.
to set the schedule as close to, normal as possible. Sometimes things
like every
happen.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Right.
And,
I'll see you on Mondays, or I'll see you on Tuesdays. Or if we get closer to the end of life or some acute illness pops up, we have to treat the illness, right?
Right.
Just because somebody gets sick while they're on hospice with, let's say, COVID, we don't say you're on hospice, bad for you. That's another misconception that stops people from signing up because they truly believe that we just start ignoring the person and let them pass away.
Like it doesn't rise to the level of, okay, now we have to start gauging who's more important because of the amount of time is left on earth. Like we are not God. We don't know.
Right. No timestamp on anyone. So even if, let's say you're a terminal cancer patient and you get COVID, of course we're going to treat you. Or an elderly patient who's got Alzheimer's and they fall down and hit their head. That's a trip to the hospital. We have to get an x-ray. So we still treat people for acute things that pop up. Urinary tract infections, that's a biggie. That happens a lot.
Okay.
Wound care, that happens a lot. So we treat
What
all
was that
these
one? Wound care?
Wound care. A lot of times patients come to us after lengthy hospital stays or not so optimal living conditions where families were not close by and they get wounds, bed sores, as it's more commonly known. So there's a lot of wound care that goes on. So, I want to dispel the myth right now. If you're on hospice care, you're going to be cared for. It's not. We don't start ignoring your physical body when acute things pop up.
Yeah, we're not flipping a coin on you. Now you're looking good. We'll see you at Thursday.
Right. No, it doesn't work like that. We will treat anything that pops up. We
If
just
they try to
don't
slip you 50, can you stop and get me? The doctor won't let me a pizza. Can you stop and get me a pie?
Right.
Yeah, I'll slip you 50 or something. I can.
Well, it's another thing too with hospice. It's funny you say it joking, but that's one of the things we also do is try to navigate through last wishes. Sometimes people say, "Oh, if I could just make it to this wedding," or
Yeah, to hell with that.
I want to visit so and so.
Right.
We often hospice companies are nationwide, or at least in multiple states.
Right. Okay.
Or we have a sister company in another state, and they happen to have a loved one there. It's getting married, and how do we get them there? And we've arranged transportation and.
Well, I already know what mine would be.
All kinds of.
Actually, it would be two things. It would be a pizza and a hooker, and I'd be fine.
All right.
You know what I mean? Let me eat before and
Well,
after.
you'd be surprised what families arrange for their loved ones. And I'm not going to go there, but there are stories. There are many stories.
Knowing my luck, they'll send a guy. And then I'll be really,
Hey.
That'll be, you know what? I'm hoping he's the one with the pizza.
Hope he brings the pizza.
Yeah. Yeah, if I see a guy
Yeah.
standing, be like, please tell me that
Well, and that's,
you're the pizza guy.
you know, food is a big part of it because
Yeah.
and that's another thing that
Well,
families, you know, what's the first thing we do when your loved one's sick? You want to feed them, right? Nourish them, make
well,
them
we
feel
do.
well.
We're Italian. We eat before, during, and after.
You eat while you're eating. I mean, it's all about the eating.
I mean, we're like a step away from having like food inside of the, during the week.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, and I always thought that it would go a little bit better if there was hors d'oeuvres, but I don't want to speak
Right.
out of
There's
school.
no cocktail hour.
Yeah. Oh, that's just what we need.
Right.
Yeah. You son of a bitch.
Right.
I never liked you.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm
That's
just trying
part
to give
of
some
it.
levity.
And you said about dealing with the families. That's one of the difficult parts. You know, all your life and whatever your particular
I can deal with
culture
the family.
is about eating. And we come to the place where
That's what I mean.
we have to tell families it's not safe to eat that anymore. We
I
have
know,
to
but
puree the food now. We have to
imagine
thicken the
filet
liquid.
mignon is not good in a like one of those
It's
blenders.
not. And
And I'm
it's
assuming
hard to get through to families when
it's tough enough,
they
but it
want
might
to
be
feed
better.
a loved one who cannot accept the food. But also, there
Well,
comes
yeah,
a
I know.
point in the process,
It's not even.
you know, as we're getting closer to end of life, seriously, we don't feel hunger anymore. We are so perfectly designed.
I know it's sad.
Like a computer, our bodies are designed. You know how they say a woman's body knows how to have a baby? All by herself, she could have a baby as long as there's no real complications.
If I had a foot cramp, I'd be crying like a little
Well,
bitch. I can only imagine being pregnant.
The
Forget it.
human
No way.
body knows how to die. We're programmed for it.
It's the flight or fight thing, and it's also it's survival mode. And I got to. I mean, it's always been good if you're going to sit there and deal with that to sit there and deal with it and have a dumpling. And I'm like I'm
Right.
saying, I'm bringing it levity.
You know, as part of it, you know, as we get closer, that's a big frustrating thing
I
because
can only imagine.
you're not going to feel hungry and you're not going to feel thirsty. And here's your loved one trying to, you know,
Like I
force
said,
feed you the dumplings and the filet
Right.
mignon. Eat,
Eat this- Yeah.
When it's not a mental decision.
Some people are like, the
it's
hell with it.
a physical response to end of life.
Well, yeah, it's all psychosomatic too. It's also the endorphins in your brain saying, you know what? I'm sick anyway. I'm going to pass away. Let me have the goddamn pizza, or me have some sugar or a drink or whatever.
Right.
What,
And it's not what happens. People don't want it.
See, I would have thought that it would be like, you know what? Like, not saying like it's your last meal before you're on death row type of
Right.
thing. You're about to do the perp walk.
You know
I'm
when
talking
we
about,
see that?
you know,
Occasionally there's something and the layman's term for it is the last hurrah. It's a
Okay.
surge of energy. And like what you're talking about, our body is not only are we pre-programmed to know how to die, but as we're going through that process, sometimes our body will set forth every chemical we have left and say, give it a shot. And we will see people get up and walk that haven't walked in a month, or someone who's been bedbound or can barely move or talk will start cleaning or cooking a meal.
right.
You know, very out of the blue surges of this massive energy.
Is that true? I thought that was just something that I saw on TV.
No,
they got up and started cooking for us and
Yes,
this and that.
it really does happen.
So that's your last hurrah. Is that what you're referring to? Like your body's giving it one last
we
shot?
don't, you know, that's really the layman's term for it, but it's a surge of energy. And it doesn't happen to everyone. Sometimes it's more subtle. Sometimes it's so shocking that people want to take their loved one off the hospice services because they're saying they're fine now. They're cured. No, don't be too hasty, because sometimes, you know, when we do see that, that is a sign of what's to come, because they have reached kind of the top of the mountain.
And now, if you know that, if you feel it coming and you could just know because you've spent a lot of time with different people and everything, do you actually tell the family, like, look, like what your opinion is? Because
yes,
I
because it's
would
not
assume
an
that's
opinion.
pathetic.
I never give an opinion. I give factual data based on facts of science that I see. You know, the way someone is acting, their vital signs, their actions and reactions. It's all part of it. Many working parts that we have to take into
so
account.
much pressure, right? To be able to
It's
go,
a
you know
lot
what?
of pressure. Yeah, sure.
I truly
Especially when
believe that.
families want to really pinpoint, you know, when is this happening?
Yeah.
Wish I could say. And
I can only
I
imagine.
can usually get it pretty close, but again, it's all between us and whoever our maker is.
Right.
A strange thing too is that often a person won't pass away in front of other people. It's a rare thing for that to happen.
Right.
And I've been in houses where there's 40 odd family members jammed into a tiny room. The one time there's a noise outside and everyone turns their head, that's when their loved one will pass. Or someone who lingers. We call it lingering. There's just no, physiological reason. They're still really clinging to life, and we're waiting, and we're keeping them comfortable, and we're waiting. Sometimes it's a phone call. There's someone that they were waiting for that can't get there. A mother who's thousands of miles away, or a friend. And we make a phone call and we put a phone to someone's ear so they can hear the voice, because we never lose our hearing. Never, ever, ever. It never goes away until they pass. Yes, that is absolutely true.
Hearing.
Yes. So I always encourage families, talk to your loved one. They may not speak back to you, of course, at some point, but do speak to them. Get in the bed, lay down there with them and relax and talk to them, because they will hear every word.
I heard stuff like that before, but I'm not sure in what context it was in, or whatever the case may have been. But in any way,
it is amazing. It's pretty amazing, and it can be a very beautiful event. It doesn't have to be, of course it's sad, of course it's painful, but if we can change our way of thinking just a little bit to see the beauty in it, only to an extent, but if it makes sense when I say it like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to always like doom and gloom type of thing, and I'm sure there's going to be other people that are going to have questions like that, but there's got to be, now these are the things that most people, for the most part, know, but there's got to be stuff that that happens that we don't know, like either about the business or like I said, now without betraying anyone's confidence or anything like that. But we're going to have to take a break, but when we get back, I'm going to
delve into the dirty details.
Not so much dirty details, but I'm guessing that I guess some of them are juicy, but these are real people and everything. I don't want to feel like I'm being callous by not accepting, but we're not talking about any specific person or calling any particular person out. It's just I need to be able to like I said, a lot of that stuff is dulled down and diluted that you read on here, and they're trying to do this and that, and you don't know who's bullshitting you and who's not.
Right.
And I know that you would know, because you're in the trenches with a lot of, you said there's hundreds and hundreds of RNs that do hospice work just in this state of New Jersey.
Right. And hundreds of companies.
I can only imagine. I didn't even realize there was that many companies. I thought there was just...
They're all over the place.
Wow. All right. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with Jen. And wow, some of that stuff actually blows my mind. But it's nice to have somebody that actually knows, and we're not speculating here. But when we get back, we're going to take a little pause for the cause, if you will. And there will be some people. And like I said, if you do want to call in, phone lines are open. It's 862-295-2111. You're listening to the Mean Machine Radio Show live, 88.6 WGAT, right here in the great state of New Jersey. We are with Jen, and she is here in studio as promised, and she will answer your questions, or if you want to type in the chat, you could do that as well. She has been a hospice nurse for many, many years and knows what it's like, a day in the life of a hospice nurse, something that you don't really think about until you need them, and then they're there, and that's pretty amazing. And it takes a special type of person to do that. I don't know, as tough as I might think I am, I don't know if I could go through that day by day, and I don't know if I could. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of people that could, and there's probably a lot of people that think that they can, but they can't. And it's just a lot of responsibility that would lay on somebody's shoulders to do that, I would assume. But when we get back, we can ask for that. And if you have some questions, you want to jot them down, or you want to call in or type in the chat, she has been gracious enough to be able to answer those for us. So we will be back. You are listening and watching the Mean Machine Radio Show. This is season 2, and this is episode 1. And it's been a pretty good one so far. But we're not done yet. We're going to wrap all the things up a little bit later, but He shouted me back. So stick around, keep listening, keep watching. We appreciate you. All right, turn off that feed there. All right, waiting for the satellite to kick back in. And there it is. All right. All right, so we are back from break. So we still have Jen with us, which is an excellent thing. She is a real life, heavy duty hospice nurse, one of the toughest jobs there probably is out there, if not the toughest and most important. And she's in studio with us. So, like I said, very lucky. She's been very gracious to join us. So, before we went to break, I wanted to mention. I heard about is there like certain books? Because I know that people, I mean, they're doing whatever they could do online to try, like they're googling stuff or whatever it is that they're doing and trying to get to grips of what they have to do and the whole process itself. Is there a book or books or any kind of literature that you can recommend that you would say, okay, well, this is I would read this one, or I would definitely
Right.
test that one. Like, do you have a specific one?
Well, I do. It's more about the dying experience, but it is the Bible of hospice work everywhere. And it's called Gone From My Sight. And it's written by an RN, Barbara Carnes, who is retired now, but was a hospice nurse for decades and decades. And it's subtitled The Dying Experience. It's a tiny, almost booklet of a book,
Hmm.
but puts it in plain English, A through Z. Here's our signs and symptoms, things you're going to see, what to expect, and what to do next. And it's so concise. There's not a person I've met that has looked at this and didn't say back to me, that was the best piece of information you could have ever given to me.
Okay.
So, Gone From My Sight, Barbara Carnes.
Barbara Carnes, Gone From My Sight.
Available online. It's all over the place.
Okay.
Easy to get your hands on. And she has written many others as well, but this is the, hospice standard. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that there was actually one that that would be definitely good information. So I wanted to so we know kind of a day in the life is for you, but there's a lot of stuff that probably people, like I said, that they don't know. That's
Right.
not mainstream. That's not something that you could Google or look up and
Right.
just kind of being
That you
like,
don't hear about.
right. In other words, or it's unbelievable, or no, that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
unfortunately, a lot of people will believe everything that they read and everything they see on TV
Of
or
course. They
on,
picture us sitting
on
at
the
the
internet.
bedside and holding someone's hand, and that's all we do.
Yeah, I think it's very convoluted with what home care is compared to what a hospice nurse is, and the
Right.
everything, the ramifications of
Right.
slipping up, let's say, and saying the wrong thing or not knowing what to say. It's got to be a touchy,
Yes.
toe in the line type of subjects. And
Yes, it is. And it
so,
requires training. I've honed my skills over a long career.
well, do you have a specific? I can only imagine. Do you have a something that you want to share with our listeners, with our viewers? Something specific, not just mainstream, something that actually happened to you, with you, or somebody
Sure,
that you worked with?
sure. I mean, I have enough stories to fill up volumes of books,
I
but
can only imagine.
In the not the inpatient hospice where you're in a facility, but the home care hospice where we literally drive door to door. So wherever the
Like in all
patient,
types of weather, like there's no,
yes,
oh, it's
there's
crappy out.
no closing. Hospice is a 24-hour service.
Right. The
So
weather doesn't always cooperate.
after 5 p.m., there's on-call nurses who go out.
Right.
We don't close ever. 365, 24/7.
Right.
No hospice company closes.
So even if it's a snowstorm, you got to drive over there.
Right.
There's no,
State of emergency, no one's allowed on the roads. Guess who goes out?
wow.
We do. And our companies give us the option. If it's a state of emergency, by law, they have to say you don't have to go, but so and so called and they're in trouble and they need help. And they can't even call 911 because the ambulances aren't running. What do? Of course you go.
And not everybody's ambulatory, I would think. I mean,
Right. When someone calls in those situations, we get in our vehicles and we go. Over the years, I have been through countless snowstorms Um, 10 years ago, I drove out Route 78 all the way to Phillipsburg, and there was no one on the road except me and a snowplow.
Oh, wow.
Right behind the snowplow because he paved the way for me, and I stayed behind him for as long as I possibly could.
Hmm.
And after that, I offloaded it.
He was paving the way literally for you to get
Literally
to where you had to go.
paving the way for me to get to a patient who had passed away, and an ambulance couldn't come. The funeral home could not come to take the loved one into their care. And this poor husband and wife, the husband had passed, the wife was there, and someone had to get to her. Her
Right.
own family couldn't get to her because of the snow. But I happened to have a very.
Well, she was by herself.
She was by herself.
Oh,
There was
geez.
no question. If I had to walk, I would have gotten to her. And I spent the night. I got there and I stayed until the morning light until the funeral home could come and take her husband into their care. And it was a very intimate, talk about being invited to the most intimate moment of someone's life. I didn't just go pronounce this person had passed away. I spent the night with this woman talking all night long. So that's something, you're not going to read about and hear about. Those are very specific to the job and the reason that we keep going. Hurricane Sandy, everybody doesn't need to be reminded about the power outages all over the state. And some people were without power for
Yeah, what was that? It was
God, over a
2012.
month. Over a month, people were without power. Well, we had hospice patients at that time too. Lots of companies did. And they needed supplies and they need oxygen and they need nursing care. So lights on, lights out, roads open, roads closed, we go.
Hmm.
So I drove over more than one front lawn and a sidewalk, but many sidewalks, but
Okay.
we still got to our patients and took care of them.
Well, what about the business itself? I mean, obviously, you guys are doing your stuff. You're in the
We're in
you're
the
in the
field.
trenches, but
We're out in the field. As
yeah,
they
I
say.
mean, is it always? I wouldn't say smooth. I don't even know how I could ask this. So, is it more or less like what don't we know? I mean, I know that that's
probably a lot.
Yeah.
Probably a lot.
Right.
But every hospice company has a home office. So while we're out in the field, there's a whole office bustling with people doing all the clerical work. And, there are managers and administrators like any other healthcare organization. It's no different in that regard. The things you don't know is what nurses do and how hospice nurses do and how many hours a day they do it. All jobs have a time frame, right? You work 9 to 5, you work 8 to 5.
Right.
We do too on paper. But the end of the day of going around and seeing patients is never the end of the day. Hospice nurses do not have the time to chart and put all this information into the computer like you see nurses do in the hospital or in a nursing home, right? Everything has to go in the chart, all the notes. And we don't do that at the bedside. That happens when we get home and we work well into the night. And most of us sleep maybe 4 hours a night if we're lucky. It's a big
It's a big responsibility.
and it's a sacrifice. And our families, that's really, they're the undersung heroes in the hospice world. The families of a hospice nurse. It's understood and it's accepted. And my own children accept it and they understand that sometimes somebody needs me more than they do at that moment. And they're
Okay.
good with it. Yeah, it's a lot. And
Yeah,
it's not always good stories. Like those are happy stories, made it through the storm, got to help my patient. It's very gratifying. Sometimes it's violence. We don't go to great areas, so to speak, all the time.
Well, this is Jersey. There's a lot of
There's
not
all
great
kinds
areas.
of areas. Not even the pretty areas aren't necessarily safe all the time. And I have been in the middle of gunfire.
Oh, nice.
That has happened on more than one occasion.
Where was that?
I'd rather not say, but
Okay.
I'm sure if anyone living in New Jersey thought about it, they could figure it out.
Fantastic.
One
I
of
think I have
just
an
a few
idea.
places.
Well, you're all over the state, so I mean,
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Every hospice nurse is assigned a region. Okay, a county, maybe it's Essex County or Bergen County. But
Right.
there's always, somebody has too many patients on their load, so we have to spread it out a little. So and so needs to take a few more patients because her load got too small.
Hmm.
And then you start blurring the geographical lines, and then the driving becomes lengthy, very lengthy. So there's a lot of
Yeah, it's bad enough that you have to do it, or I shouldn't say bad enough, but it's already more difficult enough to do it. Now you got to go through all this, and then snow and just crappy weather, and a lot of you people are on call 24 hours a day, so you take away from your family, from your rest, from your life, from
right.
you're living vicariously, or they are through you. I mean, they're going to latch on. I would assume some people really are latching on
Of
to you.
course, we walk through the door of someone's home and they're looking to you for all the answers and all the help, and they need it now, not later. They need it now.
And it's not just a shoulder to cry on, or a um, someone to just be there to talk. If it was me, I could only imagine that I would want to talk about anything but what I'm going through.
Right.
Only just not to to make light of it.
Right.
I'm just
And
saying that.
often that's the case. Families ask me about my life too,
I'd rather
and
talk about, like, hey, how about them Giants or the
yeah,
Yankees or something? Like, I don't want to talk
yep.
about cancer.
Sometimes we do
Yeah,
that. It happens a lot. We just banter about whatever. I take my lead from the patient and or the family.
right.
Unless it's something I must, say, listen, we have to discuss this right now.
Mm.
We have to know when to take the reins, so to speak, and how to steer
Yeah.
conversations into that uncomfortable place without
How do you
making it
differ?
too uncomfortable.
Well, yeah. Like, how do you differentiate between the two? Like,
You
how do you know where there's like, because
It's a
everybody there's
skill.
a line,
It's a
right?
lot to go with your gut. It's a skill.
Okay.
It's you hone that skill over
Right.
many years.
So
And
practice.
practice exactly. And a lot of nurses coming in, I've trained nurses who have been nurses for, decades. And then they come into hospice as something new.
And it's something they're just not equipped or planned for, even though
Right.
they were told. It's not the same as actually
You have to
being there.
unlearn all of your thinking as a nurse as far as call the doctor. We have to order this, and this because this person's sick. This person has made the decision, or nature has made the decision for
Right.
them. We're not doing that anymore. Now we're comforting them. It's
Well,
just
if once
palliative comfort care.
okay, look, I would just wonder, like, once you become a hospice nurse, for maybe there's some young men or ladies out there that want to become one. I mean, is it something where once you're an RN and then you become a hospice nurse, do you ever go back? Like, can you swivel between the both? Like, one day you're over here, or one week, or is it just once you're a hospice nurse, that's going to be it?
Most of the time, I have found that once you enter the hospice line of work, you don't go back to anything else. It's like I said, it's a calling.
It's too much.
How we end up there is different from, nurse to nurse that I've met, but once we're there, we almost always stay there. Almost always. I know very few that have left the industry.
I mean, I don't know how good or not good the pay is, but I would assume that there is no amount of money to have to deal with what you deal with on a daily
Right.
basis.
And it's not necessarily about the money. Sure, of course, a man is worth his hire, right? You
Right.
have to make a living. A lot of it's about gratification and
Gratification.
the gratification that you get from doing this job. That
Okay,
in
so there is
itself
a
is a perk of the job, knowing that you have lived a life in service to others, truly in service to others. And that's a big part of it for us.
I can only imagine. I mean, as far as I don't know if I could do that. I mean, I've had tough jobs in my life, but I don't think anything that comes even close to something like that. And
Right.
I've dealt with it in real life, but how to do it on a
Daily
daily
basis
basis? Well,
and multiple times a day.
it's
Right.
tough enough with your own family. Imagine with strangers. I can imagine that.
Right. Right. But nurses between different areas of nursing, we say those things to one another. I've met nurses who work in burn units that say to me, I don't know how you could do that. And I look at nurses who work in a burn unit or neonatal unit and say, like, I couldn't do that. We all know our limitations and where we belong. You learn it over time, and when like when you buy a house and that's the one I feel at home. It's kind of the same thing. It's a niche, and hospice especially, you feel the calling. And
Unbelievable. I did not
it's
know that. Like I said
yeah.
earlier, for those that missed it, I thought only priests or nuns get a call, but actually, for a hospice nurse, you said you got a call, and you actually got one.
I actually received it's a calling.
No kidding.
It's a calling.
It's not like a difference between that and, let's say, an epiphany.
No, it's a calling. You just somehow know in every fiber of your being, I'm where I belong. This is right.
So in essence, you're not choosing it; they're choosing you.
In essence, yes. Yes. Not that I would want to do anything else, because I really wouldn't. I'm very happy. I love my job. Do I get frustrated sometimes and say, oh God, I can't wait for this day to be over? Well, sure, I'm a human being,
Right.
but those moments are fleeting. There's always something that happens in my day that keeps me going. It
And
just
that
makes it
gratification.
all worthwhile.
I mean, do the families thank you?
Oh, sure,
I
sure. They're
would
so
think
always
they would.
grateful and thankful, but I find that surprising because I thank families for allowing me into their life. I mean, imagine I'm a perfect stranger and you call this hospice company and, make
Not knowing who you're going to
arrangements,
get.
right? Not knowing who you're going to get. And you make these arrangements to have this service come into your home and take care of your loved one. And here I show up. I could be anybody and they could be anybody and vice versa. There's a lot of, a lot of trust, two-way trust that has to happen immediately.
Well, we had some people that were typing in the chat,
Oh,
um, and said that there's one guy, and I actually know this one guy, and he put that you guys are a blessing. That was nice.
that's very nice to
Yeah,
hear. I
but
never get sick of hearing
you
that.
are. I mean, like on earth angels. I don't even know how else to even say it, because these people and this whatever family it might be, they're there, they're not there. They're trusting you. I mean, you're spending that last part of this one person, male or female, of their life with their family. You automatically, by
In their inner sanctum,
you are
in
their
their
family,
home.
and they're spending those last moments or last time that they have theoretically
Right.
with a stranger, but someone that is caring, and the fact that you can tell when someone's just doing enough to not get fired or just
Oh
doing their
gosh,
job or going
yes.
through the motions,
Oh gosh, yes.
but people could see through that.
Yes,
People
and those nurses don't last long.
people are a
They
lot
get
smarter.
fired wholesale.
Yeah, exactly, and people are a lot. They can, even when they're grief stricken, they're a lot smarter than people give them credit for. And I know I could see right through the BS if
Right.
I had to, and who's just doing this just to get a check or not.
Right. In fact, that's
It's
one of the things I would teach a new nurse, or even just a nurse who's new to hospice. You don't have to be fresh out of school. I could be a seasoned nurse
well,
coming on board, and I
yeah.
would always teach that nurse.
You're spending that last amount of time with them. They're going to remember
You
you
better
for the rest of your
know
life.
that's right, and you better know what a privilege it
Wow.
is that's been bestowed upon you. I mean, that is not lost on most of us. It is not lost on us. What a privilege it is what we do.
And you're going to know that one day, you know what I mean, you'll be looked upon favorably for that, because that takes a special person. You have all my respect and
Thank
all of my
you.
gratitude.
Thank you. I feel that
I
way
mean,
about my patients and their families. They have my respect and gratitude
I mean, there's a
for
lot of
allowing
people.
me to be part of it.
It's a lot of people, and people, they're afraid, and it's the great unknown, and it's a
Right.
loved one, or it's
Right.
that's already
Well,
a
and it's
big
asking
thing.
someone to take a leap of faith, not just with
I
me,
do.
but that I know enough to take care of a critically ill person.
Right.
And I mean, some of these cases are very intense.
I can
We're
only
talking
imagine.
about tubes and pieces and parts and machines and all kinds of things. And
Yeah, these people's homes become an ER.
yes,
You know,
and for them to take this leap of faith and to not call 911 but call us instead. Don't send them out to the hospital anymore when they're on hospice care. That's the point of it, to keep them home and comfortable. No more ambulance rides.
I can.
We become the 911.
Well,
So
to be able to, and that's interesting. We're going to have you back on, Jim, because I know that there's a lot of people that we couldn't even get to everything, and we'd like
right,
to.
I know it's
But
a lot.
in closing, though, I wanted to, as we wrap it up, I wanted to at least ask you, because you would know, that way because I'm only guessing. But
Sure.
what would you tell legitimately without trying to candy coat it, or in other words, you just be straight from the hip, which I know that you are, because
Yeah.
I've known you long enough to know that that goes without saying. If
Right.
you were, whether it was a man or a woman, and they were, I wouldn't say, let's say maybe there's probably a lot of people that don't get the calling that are hospice nurses. I'm sure it's not for everyone. That's how it was for you, and that's how you, um, I wouldn't say justify, but that's how you got to where
Right.
this is where we are.
Right.
Okay, so if you were a person that is an RN or an LPN and thinking that they want to do that, if they've experienced grief or heartache in their life or whatever it was, and they feel like this is the way that that person's gone there, but they would like to give back right off the bat. That's says something about their soul,
Right.
because that you can't fake, right?
Right.
And I'm sure you've been around enough people, good, bad, or indifferent, that you could just tell. What advice? I mean, what advice would you give? Like really, what would you say? Let's say it was your own daughter,
Right.
or even if it was a stranger. What would you tell them that you can't find in a book or on the internet, Googling this, or for what other people say? What advice would you give them about to enter this line of work, this specific, not just an RN? They went to nursing school.
Right.
They've worked. They've been residents. They've been in hospitals. They've been around ERs. They see a lot of hairy and gory stuff, right?
Yep.
This is different because this is not a car
Here's
accident.
what you won't hear in a book.
Right.
I
So
know
what would you
exactly what
tell
I'm
them?
going to say.
Yeah. What would you tell them?
That
What
we
would be
don't
your
judge.
best advice?
We do not judge. In hospice, you're going to get to know people so intimately. Not everyone is a good person.
Yeah.
You're going to have patients that aren't good people. They come from all kinds of things, unspeakable things sometimes. And maybe their family member, maybe the patient. It is not our job to judge. Our job is to bring someone to the fruition of their life in the most comfortable and beautiful way possible, without judgment of any kind. And it's easy to do. Like I said, it's a calling. If you receive the calling, if you really truly are in the nursing arena you're supposed to be in, it won't even be a question mark. But that's a question you have to ask yourself before going in. Can I do this without judgment? When I hear the most heinous thing that this patient did in their life, could I still care for them?
I mean, you would know this. I mean, you have firsthand knowledge of things
Yes,
like
and
this,
you
right?
will know. And I have known some very terrible, terrible things about patients that I've cared for, but I've cared for them nonetheless.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, not everybody. That's interesting that you said that. I wanted to remark on
That's
that
what
because
you won't hear and
not
won't
everybody
read in the book.
that's terminal or is dying or something like that are all good people.
No.
And I guess you automatically feel bad for them in this sense, but that's not always the case.
Some,
Interesting. It's true, right?
are Megan's Lawed. Some are ex-convicts. Some,
Do you need to know their background to be able to provide care, or is that just
you
something
don't
that
need
comes
to
along the
know.
way?
It's something that certainly comes up, especially when they're on, the list, the child offender list. That comes up,
Jeez.
not
I didn't even think of that.
often. I mean, there's
Well, I
no
guess bad people
statistic
get
really for what person you get.
yeah, bad people get sick too, right? I
Everyone
guess.
is going to come to the end of their life at some point for some reason, whether it be just, old age or illness, whatever the case may be, an accident.
So your best advice to a nurse, male or female, that's thinking of doing this explicitly,
Right.
what would be
If you
your final thought on that?
if you cannot do it without judgment of any kind, then don't do it.
Well, there you have it, folks. Right from her lips to God. Anyway, well, thank you so much, Jen. I appreciate it. We're gonna have you on again because it's just we could talk about this stuff for hours,
I
days,
know.
weeks.
I know it's a lot. It's a lot, and we
I didn't
barely
even get to
touched
all
on
the
the whole thing.
yeah, I didn't even get to all the questions and the phone wasn't working
That's all right.
100% correct. But I'll tell you what, and what'll happen is people will watch this tomorrow on Spotify or iHeart or whatever. So even the ones that didn't make it to the live one, you're going to be able to touch a lot of people. A lot of people are going to get some value out of what you did, and for that, I really do want to thank you. Thank you for being on the show. We're definitely going to have you
Thank
again.
you having me.
Of course, anytime. It's not always easy to tackle the tough
Right,
subjects,
and it's a
and
toughie.
you know, we'd like to think that we're going to do that. Like I said, as we can't say that we're going to pivot to more serious topics and more society and culture, and right out the gate, like I mentioned when we first started broadcasting, right out the gate, we have a bona fide RN, a hospice nurse with many years experience, and has probably seen more stuff than we could ever dream of. And the fact that you could take the time, knowing that your time is very valuable and that you don't have a lot of what I would call free time
Right.
to spend it with us. So I think I speak from everybody, or for everyone, I should say, and say a heartfelt thank you for being here.
My
Um,
pleasure.
yeah, really cool stuff.
Thanks.
Unbelievable. Anyway, all right. Well, we will see Jen again, and we're going to wrap it up. This is it's been interesting, and like I said, for a lot of people that maybe missed when I first came on the air today, that we are live, New Jersey 88.6 WGAT on satellite radio. It's through YouTube, the Mean Machine Radio Show. If you want, you can catch our older episodes from season one or going forward during season two on Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just look up Mean Machine Radio Show and you will find it. And I wanted to thank all the subscribers, and I wanted to thank all our viewers, and of course the followers that we get, because they come in clumps. You know, it's weird. Like all of a sudden we'll have like a few, or like I think there's like 18 of them, and all of a sudden, boom, it just jumps up. Well, that means a lot to me. Thank you, because like I said, it was our maiden voyage was season one, and with limited resources and time constraints and just life in general that gets in the way. We promised you a show. We promised you a new season and a new episode, and I'd like to think that we delivered. Of course, I'm just a host. That was all Jen this afternoon. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to hear what I have to say. So she's laughing. we could do without any more dad jokes there, Mean Machine. We get it. Anyway, our next episode will drop, and I will let you know when that will be. I mentioned this earlier, and I'll reiterate it. It's not going to be every Sunday or every Saturday or whatever. We don't know that yet. But I do know that if you follow us on Twitter or X at Mean Machine 973, you got Instagram, same thing, same handle and everything, Facebook, TikTok, all of it's all the same handle on it. Mean Machine 973 at outlook.com. If you want to drop us a line, if you do want to be either probably a remote guest, we were lucky enough to have Jen here today, but to be a remote guest, drop us a line. Let us know why. Either myself, yep, I even take those emails myself, or one of our people. Let us know what you would bring to the show. What would you provide? What do you want to talk about? Is it just general life stuff? Whatever it is, if it seems something that's bona fide, something that's real and above board, we'll have you on. We have some spaces. We have an MMA fighter that's going to be coming on in another week or two. But like I said, follow us on our social media. That way you'll know when the next episode is going to drop. You can't go by, oh, it's every Tuesday at so and so or whatever it is. We haven't gotten there yet. But we're bringing you everything that we can, how we can, and when we can. So, from all of us here, wanted to say thank you for listening and thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed your Sunday. I hope you enjoyed Jen, our hospice nurse that was on. And like I said, we're doing the best that we can. We're not perfect, but we are honest, and we want to tackle more important subjects because I believe that the world could use a little bit more of that. No politics, no religion, and no bullshit. Just straight from the hip. These people are screwing me at this company, or this bank did this, or this mortgage company did that, or I'm having a problem with this. And, I got a lot of emails that I couldn't even get to, you know what I mean? Where people were being bullied and this all sorts of different stuff. And I'd like to be able to address those one at a time, but I don't want to rush it because I want to be able to give it the time, the appropriate time that it deserves. So I promise you, as things start to develop in season two and the next episode drops, if you're following us, the best one is Twitter. And if you don't have Twitter, then you're going to have to check it out on something else. But like I said, you'll find us on Spotify, Amazon, and iHeart Music. Mean Machine Radio Show. Science, there isn't much of a science. The niche, well, it's society, it's culture, it's life. We still have the sarcasm. We still have funny stuff. We'll still talk about this and that. But I think that listening to what you guys have said, what you wanted to talk about, the important subjects and the structure that you wanted. I'm just a bus driver. You know what I mean? I'm just a host. The show will go wherever you guys want to take it. I promise you that. So anyway, That being said, wanted to say goodnight. Thank you from the great state of New Jersey. You have listened and watched the Mean Machine Radio Show on WGAT 88.7 New Jersey. You're on Twitch. Okay. I want to thank everybody that stopped by, for the people that sent in their email, and we'll get to some more stuff when episode 2 drops. So stand by for that. Have a good night. Have a good evening, everybody. Take care. Say a prayer. And remember, if you can't be good, be bad, and then be mean. Peace.